And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Warper Confusion Entertainment Review. It's episode number 20. We're recording these a little out of order because this one's being live streamed. We just got done recording next week's podcast with Crofteria. We're going to talk about Mass Effect with her. We're going to talk about everything Mass Effect Legendary Edition, favorite side characters, favorite trilogy moments, what's the favorite game, and the big topic, we're going to be ranking the Mass Effect companions. We just got done with that, and I'm pretty happy with the list. I think it came out pretty good without any major surprises. A couple characters were on different lines than I expected them to be, but not drastically so. There was just some surprising answers on some whose preferred characters when those lines started getting close. That shocked me a little bit, but that's why you make the show. See what happens. This week, though, we're talking about Loki. The season has wrapped up. We're talking the series at large so far. We're on a timer right now. We got 44 minutes left now that we're doing the intros. So, by the way, speaking of intros, I'm Thomas, a.k.a. Mr. Warburg. Probably should have started there. And alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Fusion.
Greetings and salutations, everybody.
I should get a greetings and salutations just clip for you. Just so I can play that. It was
greetings and salutations.
Yes. Should isolate that audio and just make it work. It'd be great. So Fusion, you've now watched the Loki finale as well. Do we want to do any of the what are we watching, playing stuff? Or do we want to just jump right into it?
Let's jump right in. Let's make this about Loki.
Okay.
Because we know we like to go on tangents.
Watch Gunpowder Milkshake. It was like if Edgar Wright made a John Wick movie. Dope as fuck. I loved it. So we'll get back to just strictly here the Disney Plus stuff, and that's Loki.
Yep.
Like I said, the season has wrapped up. It was rather polarizing amongst our friends and the internet at large, it seems.
Yeah.
And I think largely that was more... Hang on, your crop is off. What the heck did I do there?
Whoa, crop me back in frame.
There you go. You were running up against the bar to your left. I was like, that's not right. Live production, guys. Gonna be dope. But, yeah. So... It's been polarizing. Some people really enjoyed it. I dug the shit out of it. I was just a happy fucking nerd. Some people were more like, what the fuck is going on? And I think part of that is how it was constructed and how it was announced and packaged, which is on Disney's side or on Marvel's side, not on the show itself, the showrunner. Some of those decisions not in her hand. Because it's Marvel. So, I mean, it's not like she's Greg Berlanti overrunning the Arrowverse where he can do whatever the fuck he wants. You know? This is Marvel. So and this was Kate Herron, I believe, was the showrunner and director of every episode.
That's correct, yes.
So, hey, season 2 is coming out. And they kind of did or didn't know from November 2020 to now whether that was going to happen, but they couldn't say anything. Yeah. So it kind of, I think, maybe unnecessarily fucked with audience expectations. Because Falcon and Winter Soldier, WandaVision had definitive, this is the finale, the story is done, we're moving on, these are where the characters are going in the MCU at large.
Yep.
Loki doesn't get to do that by design because they're doing a season 2. You can clearly tell the story structure, where they leave things off. It was written as this will be picked up again story.
Yeah. Whereas
the first 2 Disney Plus series were not written that way. They were written to be ends. Loki was not. But Disney didn't tell anyone that. I think if Marvel had said, at the outset, season 2 was happening, expectations would have changed about what the finale will be. People were expecting more, hey, this is the end game of the story, here's the ramifications for everything, a little more explanation about what is to come, and setup for that, as opposed to, hey, here's everything that's going on, why it's happening, boom, cliffhanger, we're done. For me, it works, because... And again, I've been primed to see this kind of story because I watched Legends of Tomorrow, which is very comic book time travel. A lot of similar themes, a lot of similar messages, similar character arcs. Not that crazy. Loki's arc's pretty similar, actually, to Captain Cold's arc in Legends of Tomorrow, where he ends up becoming he's the rogue who kind of becomes the hero at the end. And in that show, spoilers for a very old show now, he sacrifices himself to give everyone free will and free them from the Time Masters. Which are their version of the TVA, the Time Masters. He blows himself up. He becomes the hero in the end. Very similar arc to Loki in the Loki variant we know from 2012 Avengers in the show. So I was kind of expecting what we got, and I think I pretty much nailed it on the general meat of the story. Some of the
Sure.
superfluous stuff I missed on, but again, that was more. Had I really known it would be picked up again, and it wasn't the end, I think I wouldn't have bothered with a few of the arcs I tried to resolve in my head
Sure.
because I would have figured they weren't going to be resolved because the
Yeah.
show was coming back. But I didn't know that, so I assumed it was a finale like everybody else. But then once the show started going, I was like, oh yeah, they're coming back. Like it's gonna happen. And then they announced it that day. Yeah, it's coming back. So I knew before the finale started, and everything kind of fell into place after that for me. But I've talked enough here in the intro fusion. So where are you at on the finale?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think, like you said, this was actually very polarizing within our friends because, and I noticed the disparity. It's mostly not a schism, but it's a disparity when people that like you and I that really know the comic book content, the comics themselves, the source material, and what took place in the finale, versus someone that's more just casually watching the MCU productions, right? And my perspective is, of course, I was happy for you because I know you had a big W there because you called it right down, boom, 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 what happened. It does open up a lot of questions for me. First, I want to say this though, with Kate Herron, she's not going to be the showrunner and director of season two,
Yep.
so it makes me wonder how long she's known, if she's known until very recently that there was going, like, basically it does draw into question. But at the same time, we've also heard that before Loki even like before the premiere of the show, he sat down everyone involved and said, "Here is the multiverse. Here are the rules for the MCU with the multiverse. When you direct, when you write, here are the rules we have to stay within." Um, which is, of course, why more than likely why Edgar Wright backed away out of the first Ant-Man because of the MCU um, um, rules that he didn't want to go through, which
Yeah.
I can understand to a degree, and that may be why Kate backed off for season two. I don't know. We also know a few more other things that Loki more than likely is going to show up in Doctor Strange too, and maybe it's tied directly into the ending of this. We don't know. Like we still have a little bit. I think Spider-Man No Way Home is going to establish where we are in the timeline going forward. That's going to establish like where we're going to where are we picking up now, because with Loki there really is no timeline for him
Yeah.
because he's jumping out in and out everywhere, right? I enjoyed the ending. Jonathan Majors, I will say this about Jonathan Majors playing this character. Very excited about the casting. I am very curious because he was more slapsticky and goofy than I imagined he'd be. But I think there's a reason to that, and I'll say it here in a sec. I overall I liked his presence on the screen, and I think he's going to be great as Kang the Conqueror. His engagement with Sylvie and Loki was great. Like just their, but there was pretty much the majority of the episode they're just sitting around talking, right? And
Hmm.
so I think I think people were expecting some big action-packed ending to this show, which most people thought was just a one and done season. But I enjoyed it. I really liked where we're going next. I do appreciate the redemptive arc with Loki, but the funny thing is, like we joked about last episode, where it turns out the only person Loki will ever love is himself when you really think about it. When he gets a redemptive arc, he immediately has to go to work. So there isn't like a chance to celebrate this turning point in Loki's life of becoming a quasi hero. It's like, nope, now we got to figure shit out next. And then we just end there, right?
Hmm.
But I'm happy with things. I think Tom Hiddleston was phenomenal this season. I think they really great casting, man. The only thing, and I agree with what you're going to say with this, so I might as well put it out there. Didn't like Renslayer's arc. It
Yeah.
just a
That
big
was
problem with
such
that.
a
Let
like
down for
red
me.
herring of a character. It's like
Yeah.
I mean I can appreciate a swerve,
Mhm.
but unless she and where she leaves, of course, that's a season two arc for sure.
Sure.
So maybe it'll come around, especially with this new version of our big bad. Maybe
Yeah.
that'll become a more core component of why the TVA exists. That's what I was expecting. It was like he really created the TVA and more specifically installed Renslayer as its head
Yep.
because he, Jonathan Major's character we're speaking of here, which they don't name. That was the one misstep for me with that whole scene with him. He
Yep.
needed either his human name or
Yep.
the Immortus name. One of
Yep.
the two.
Yep. Yep.
Either needed to be Nathaniel Richards, like from the future, or Immortus, one or the other. They
Yeah.
didn't officially name him, which I think may come back to bite them. But I think they're going to rectify that in season 2 with like actually calling him something.
But is season 2 going to take place next year, or because we
I
still
don't know
have
when they're going to
it,
come back for production. Like they
yeah,
haven't said.
exactly. They haven't said anything, but they haven't even issued out when they plan on releasing this, like what year they're targeting for it. Because
I would
if
imagine it's
it's
got to
next,
be 23. Like, but looking at their slate, it's got to be 2023.
so we have Spider-Man. Let's talk about movies that are
And you got to
relevant now.
account for the whole Disney Plus arc too, because like there's the
Yeah,
Mandalorian. Like
The Mandalorian.
that will fuck up their timing because they will not be releasing like outside of Hawkeye, maybe running up against it.
Okay, so next year we have Hawkeye,
Hawkeye's
She-Hulk.
this fall, isn't it?
Is it this fall? I thought it was early next year. I thought it was
Might be early
January.
2022. So basically, Mandalorian
Yeah.
will be done. Like they're getting the
Okay.
fuck out of the Mandalorian's way with
Yeah,
Marvel.
they have to. Yep.
So there's like a 2 month period where they can't put anything out on Disney Plus.
Well, this December is Book of
And
Boba
Boba Fett.
Fett, right?
Yeah, and then they're
Book of
going to
Boba
push
Fett.
Mandalorian to next fall, I assume.
Fall, yes,
Next
next
holiday
fall.
season. So 2022's holiday season's booked.
Yep.
So it can't be there because we know we're getting Hawkeye and She-Hulk.
Yep.
Unless
and
they
we
manage to
possibly,
fit a third season in, which they might if it's a shorter run like Loki is,
okay.
being 6 versus 8. They could. But
You're also forgetting Miss Marvel.
Yeah, there's the Miss Marvel show.
Moon
That
Knight.
has an production now.
Also, Echo, but Echo's probably a 23, early
I maybe
2023.
24 because if she doesn't hit in Hawkeye, maybe she won't
Yeah.
even get a series.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be Charlie Cox is supposed to be Daredevil's supposed to take a big role in Echo's show.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling if Echo bombs in Hawkeye, if they don't like the way it comes out, they may just fast track Daredevil rebooting his show.
Which I'd be
That'll probably
that wouldn't hurt my feelings at all.
Yep. So, yeah, it's really interesting what they're going to do with season 2, where it takes place, because you think about it, Spider-Man obviously is involving the multiverse.
Mhm.
The Eternals. Let's go ahead and spoil things here because I mentioned it to you, but let's talk about it now. I think now the Eternals, because the casual fan is like, why didn't they get involved when Thanos was going after the gauntlet, right? And the stones, right? The snap. Why did they not intervene? And I think we know now that they're coming back is more than likely tied directly into the multiverse being broken, right?
I read the
Has to be.
leaks and I know what happens. I don't want to say.
Okay,
The
I
leaks
didn't read the
seem
leaks.
incredibly correct.
Okay, so I'll go read the leaks. I just haven't read them yet. But for me, I think it's more tied into it has. There's your loophole because, like we both have said this off sidebarring and on the show that they have to really craft out an excuse for the Eternals, because
Yeah.
if not, the casual fan is not going to buy into it. They're not going to buy into it unless you have a really good one. You have one now, but on top of that, you have Eternals. Shang-Chi's probably going to be a little more in its own bubble than we really think about
But
it in
Wong
terms of
is
the
in it,
multi.
and Abomination's in it.
Yeah,
Like,
of course. Well, I mean, they got
that's
to tie it
crazy.
into they have to tie it into the MCU, but I mean, in terms of like the
Well,
multiverse,
yeah.
into the multiverse, or maybe there is a lot of content for Shang-Chi. We don't know about the whole mythos behind what they're going to do with it that is tied into the Eternals and to the multiverse. That's fine. Spider-Man is directly multiverse. Doctor Strange 2, directly multiverse, right?
Mhm.
Well, then probably Loki would have to be, if it was next year, it would have to be summertime next year, same time, right?
Yeah.
Have to be. It would have to
And
be.
that's a tight
Um,
turnaround given everything else Disney Plus has on their slate.
Exactly. But it sounds like Feige's really mapped out what they're going to be doing with Phase 4. Let's circle back over to Jonathan Majors. I agree with you. We should have been given a name, because what's going to happen is Ant-Man's going to start production here very soon. Ant-Man
Mhm.
and Wasp 3 is going to start production. Quantumania here very soon. We already know that Majors is playing the lead villain, Kang the Conqueror. Okay, Kang is Nathaniel Richards from a different universe that destroys timelines. Whatever you want. I don't want to go too much into the character, just a little bit, but basically, Jonathan Majors is going to be playing a lot of different roles in the MCU.
Mhm.
That's what we know is going to happen here. He's going to have a lot of range. I think I agree with you here. They screwed up by not addressing him as Immortus here, because when people see him again, whatever production it be, whether it be Doctor Strange or if he makes a cameo in Spider-Man, or if we don't see him till Ant-Man 3, if he's Kang the Conqueror in the next one, we're gonna be like, people are gonna be like, so he was Kang in Loki? Is that who he was? Technically, no. He's Immortus. He's different. He's a little bit different character, but um, it's going to confuse people. They should have addressed him as Immortus or Nathaniel. I agree. They should have named him here.
Yeah. And honestly, there was a moment I thought they were going to when they start that whole sequence to get to the void. There's this ship that flies by. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, Was that supposed to be the Fantastic Four ship? Because if he's Nathaniel Richards, he's tied into their lore. I
Yep,
was like,
yes, he
well,
is.
shit. Is that a slight little tease? Because I was like, that seems really out of place for that to be there, given all the other planetary imagery we're getting. And one of
Yeah,
them is a spaceship.
yeah,
That seems very Fantastic Four.
yep.
And I was surprised we didn't get any nod to him being Nathaniel Richards beyond that at all. Like, that seems like a missed opportunity. But again,
It
maybe there's a
is.
plan we don't see as of yet. So maybe 2 years from now on a rewatch, we might know different things and thus have a different perspective.
But then we also forget that, just like with Sylvie, because Sylvie is a different character in the comics than
Yeah,
Lady Loki. Okay,
yeah.
they're
She's
two different
more
characters.
Amora than
Yeah,
her.
yeah. So maybe they're not even. Maybe Kang will not have no ties to the Richards family at all
Yeah,
in any universe. Maybe we don't know yet. Um, it's one of those things where they may just kind of deviate from the backstory on one particular character here and there, like they do from time to time. So that's possible, but I would think that if he is Nathaniel Richards in the MCU, they would at least kind of given you the kind of built up a foundation for the Fantastic Four through him, right? It'd be a great introduction to them, you know?
yeah,
Yeah. There was it. These are just little things that you and I think just because we know a lot of the core material more than the casual moviegoer, so I think that kind of where we were being a little critical about it. But I can see some of the casual fans being like, I didn't really get the ending. It didn't hit me as hard, or I was expecting more from it. I was expecting another evil Loki because of the way they were setting it up. But for us, it's like, okay, this is the whole thing about this is we're building on the multiverse. Like this is Marvel going forward is the
hmm
multiverse.
yeah. So like to get like back to my Legends comparison, obviously Loki has a different objective,
Sure.
being to set up the multiverse. Whereas in Legends, they already knew about it. You know, like Flash season 2 had already come out. Like everyone was aware of what was going on the DC side, at least
Yeah.
within universe, wasn't a new concept. Um, so obviously Marvel needed to get there with this show, specifically before all the movies come out, so they can really start teaching the audience more about it. I think universally comic book movie audiences are more educated, partly because of shows like the Arrowverse, like going fucking hog wild with the craziness of it all. Like
Yeah.
just reveling in how batshit crazy comic books can be. And the media at large, basically post Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, has done that. You know, like the
Yeah.
medium in TV, in video games, in the movies, they've really gone out there. You know, I mean, fucking Ant-Man has 2 movies and gonna be a third. Like, audiences are really getting more educated, like a comic book nerd would be back in the day, just reading the comics. And I think now that we're really in the Phase 4, I think you're really gonna get almost those like, hey, check out this issue boxes in the corner almost, um, of movies, and like especially with the zanier, more meta ones. I think we might actually see that, like in like a Deadpool. I could see them straight up doing comic book panels and check out Loki episode 5 or whatever, and like that being in the shot. I could
Sure.
100% see that out of a Deadpool. And it's crazy that we've gotten there as comic book moviegoers, because I would have never thought we could do something like that and have it be commercially successful. I could have seen like a comedy like a Deadpool doing it 10, 15 years ago, but then it flopping because nobody would understand what the fuck is going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now they can. Like all the doors are open now, which I love as a comic book fan, because there's some absolute crazy ass shit that goes on in comics. It makes no sense. It doesn't work, but it still is like engaging you like creatively, because it's just cool storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm very excited at the ramifications of what the show has opened up for the MCU. And of course, we get more Tom Hiddleston, who has come out and said he wants to play Loki forever. So, and I
Yep.
appreciate that Marvel is doing the opposite of WB and letting their popular actors playing popular characters continue to play the popular characters. Looking at you, WB, about Henry Cavill continues to
Yeah.
want to be Superman, and you won't let him because you're fucking idiots. Dumbasses.
Yep.
Ugh.
It's funny you mentioned it, but we have to bring it up real quick. I mean, technically, Deadpool is now in the MCU, right?
Yeah, that
Based off
crazy
of that Good Guy
crossover
trailer.
with Korg.
Korg. Oh God.
So
But you know,
good.
if they have him ease his way into the MCU with commentary on trailers, making like if and I've heard rumors that he may eventually take the Stan Lee role, like in all the movies, making little appearances. I'm all for that, and it doesn't have to be Deadpool in the outfit. He could be Wade Wilson, all jacked up with his face, just
Yeah.
like sitting in a bus or something, like making a quick comment. Like I'm all for that because we know that he's gonna have to exist in the multiverse, and I'm sure it's his movies directly tied into how he becomes part of the MCU. But yeah,
He's gonna fight
I agree.
Jeffrey Wright, Uatu the Watcher.
Oh God, that
Yes.
would be hilarious.
Yes.
Well, like, I think I mentioned this with the What If last episode. That's a perfect way to bring in Deadpool through the What If.
Yeah.
There's a
Or,
great way because
like I said, the initial one, him and the Watcher just get stoned, and the Watcher
oh,
is just like snaps his fingers, and Deadpool's in the universe now. That'd be awesome.
yeah, he accidentally sends them there, and he's like,
Yeah,
oh, wait,
'cause
I
he was
wasn't
high.
supposed to intervene.
Yeah.
But I wasn't supposed to intervene. But you know what? We're just gonna leave it. We're not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'd love it. But I agree with you that there's so much more. There is a lot of absurdity in comic books in terms of like the stories. I mean, we have that fucking Thanos copter. We talked about this last
They put the
episode.
Thanos copter in the
And they
show.
put it in there, so it just shows you like Kate Herron and company. They really wanted to do a good service to the fans with this show, which is great. It tied in like WandaVision did a good job of tying in a lot of the history of the MCU. This basically tied in everything into the MCU,
Yeah,
like
comics
everything
and
important. Yes.
movies.
Yes. So, and we know with the multiverse, that you have the ability to travel into 616, which is the Marvel Comics universe, right? So that's why the exists basically. Um, Flash season 2 did a good job explaining what the multiverse is. So people
And
that
they
have
did
watched
Crisis on Infinite Earths,
Infinite
man.
Earths, oh
Like,
God, how did we
and
do
they
that?
brought
How
in
did we make like
they had a fucking Ezra Miller on set. They flew him in on a red eye, got him in his Justice League suit, and filmed him with Grant Gustin.
yeah.
Bonkers.
Did you ever hear the story about that? How they basically the showrunner called Jim Lee and was
Yeah,
like,
and they did it
"Hey,"
in 4 days. They're like, "Hey,
yeah,
could we do that?" And then
and
Jim Lee
Jim was
was
like,
like,
"I don't know."
"Well, I don't see why not. As long as
Yeah.
he fits in the suit, fuck it,
And as
let's
long as he
try."
wants to do it, if he wants to do it, and Ezra's like, hell yeah, I'll do it. And they're like, okay, does he fit in the suit?
Yeah, like
I
that was
think so.
that came out of Fandom, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah,
then like Jim Lee was like, my first question was, can Ezra still fit in the suit? Because we don't have time to make a new one.
yep,
Because it had been so long since they filmed Justice League. And then his first question to Ezra Miller was, can you still fit in that suit? And then they did, and they just took off, and in 4 days they got it done. Nobody
yeah,
fucking knew. Only Gustin and the people on set that day knew they filmed it. So
yep.
every cast member had no fucking clue that happened until they all watched it live. Just an amazing television production story. That's an all-timer for me, is the fact that they
Yes.
got that shit done, cross-media production, and nobody fucking knew about it.
And no one knew about it. Yeah.
Because everyone was focused on, hey, Brandon Routh's going to be Superman again, which was awesome. And then, oh yeah, we got in the movie Flash to talk to the TV Flash. And they shared a scene together, and it was hilarious.
Well, not only that, remember we got 1989's Batman
Yeah, like
in this, and so people were like so focused on all of that,
yeah.
they forgot.
They brought
well,
Lucifer in from Netflix, like
Netflix.
like craziness, just pure
Well, and
insanity.
so they completely forgot that we're going to do a Flashpoint movie with Ezra Miller, and Grant Gustin may make a cameo in that
If that
Flashpoint
scene
movie.
shows up again somehow, and that's because in universe he's still just Barry Allen. He's not the Flash, right?
Yep.
He never gets
Yep.
the name in the Snyder cut, even.
Nope. Nope. Well, they mentioned it because at the end of this cameo, he was like, "The
Yeah,
Flash."
Grant
Really?
Gustin gives him the
Okay.
name. He's like,
Name. Yep.
I'm the Flash. Like and then you see you see the gears turn. Like,
Like,
oh, that's
my
a dope
God.
name,
Yeah.
right? Like, great name. And
That's one thing I appreciated with the Flash, because I am a fan of the comic, always have been. That how in that first season of the Flash, they took a few episodes to get him to becoming the Flash. He was the Red Streak, remember, for 4 or
yeah,
5 episodes, and then it finally, um, you know, um,
they finish the
Iris
suit,
names,
and it's
yeah,
and then Iris gives him the name, and
the Flash. Yeah.
yeah,
It was a good way to. It wasn't just like episode 1. We origin story and we name him the Flash. It took a little while to build up the character. It felt a little more organic for a superhero. But back to the MCU.
yes.
This is
That was our
there's
big
so
tangent. We're done with
Yep.
tangents.
Yeah, we're done with tangents, guys. Promise. This was really important, an important season, because it really shows you that when people are we're gonna buy into the Spider-Verse movie in December. I mean, we're only a couple months away from the fucking Spider-Man movie,
Yeah.
guy. Like a few months away.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
we have Shang-Chi, we have
Multiverse,
Eternals,
Into
but
the Spider-Verse happened. Like,
yeah.
audiences know what to expect.
So now we understand them. Now that the casual goer can understand the multiverse, we can explain why, quote unquote, we don't, but we may have Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield show up in this movie.
Yeah,
Why
and
we're gonna
Alfred
have
Molina's Doc Ock's gonna
Melina,
show up.
and
Like,
apparently, oh my god,
how crazy would it be
um,
if Paul Giamatti's Rhino is in this movie?
oh god, that'd be
That'd be
hilarious.
hilarious.
That would be
And he's the
hilarious.
comic
Oh,
relief villain. Yes.
that'd be great. But apparently, oh, we know Shocker, Jamie Foxx is going to be in there. Willem Dafoe's
Yeah.
Green Goblin. Apparently, from what the rumors that are out there, he's going to be the major villain of the movie. Okay, well, but what about the multiverse? Like that, like so. I think it's just at this point, it sounds like the multiverse is broken for some reason, and maybe
And
it
like
ties
his
direct.
experiments accidentally cracked it open wider. Or
Yeah,
something like that.
or it could be tied into directly to we're going to get obviously a little bit of Doctor Strange 2 in here, so maybe something happens with Scarlet Witch that creates the Spider-Verse thing happening. But regardless of it, Shang-Chi's going to be fun, maybe tied into a little bit, but Eternals their backstory may be tied into the multiverse and their return for some reason, but we're obviously going to get balls to the wall multiverse and Spider-Man. That has to be what happens here, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think the one thing with me with Loki, I was very satisfied with the ending. Um, I am a little upset with just how Sylvie's story kind of just drops, but that's season two. Renslayer, like you said, disappointed with that whole thing. It felt really like they were setting up something big for her. And then you think about it, the whole Mobius discussion. There's another TVA agent that's in her that she's friends like that she's close to. We don't that was never resolved.
Within the
Okay, well,
pen was her pen.
yeah, that was her pen from
That doesn't
her
make
variant
any
timeline.
sense.
Yeah. That was the big thing for me was with her story. Not only was her story kind of just killed, but the fact that her backstory, they go to the timeline where she was pulled from, and they see her, and they're like, okay, there's more to the story. But then that's it. That's the end of that, and that just really feels like,
Yeah.
okay, are we gonna go into a Renslayer backstory in season two? Because if we are, that means that there's gonna be a lot more with Kang as well
Yeah,
in
because
season two.
clearly if they're setting that up the way they are, she knew the whole time they were variants.
Yeah, she
So,
had
but
to have
she
known
doesn't know who the
that she's
bad
a
guy
variant.
is.
Yeah.
Like, she knew she was a variant, but she didn't know Immortus. She didn't know anything about Kang or the multiverse or anything, which was odd for me because that means she knows half the story. But then, how would she know she's a variant? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, maybe we see that episode, and of course we got to figure out what's going on with Mobius and what is that hunter's name? Like B something.
Yeah, I forget her name.
But her turning to help them was a nice
Was it
touch.
B-120? Was it B-120? I'm gonna
Something
say
like that.
B-120.
The
Something
hunter.
like
We'll
that.
just say the hunter.
Yeah.
The only one we know. Um. So I'm thinking Loki's gonna have to enchant them to recover their memories of the old timeline. So that's gonna happen, I think, pretty early on. So I don't know if we get an old Mobius, like his original memories, and it's him riding around on a jet ski or something. That'd be hilarious.
Sure.
Is
That'd
like
be funny.
that's why he thinks about jet skis all the time, is because like maybe he was like a like he was that guy that just like jumps over a bunch of shit in his jet ski at county fairs and stuff,
Sure.
Like
Sure.
that would be a great touch. He's like water ski Johnny Cage. That Ghost Rider?
Johnny K. Johnny.
No,
Johnny
that's
Blaze.
Mortal Kombat. Johnny Blaze.
Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, Johnny Blaze. He's like, but he's that, but for jet skis, and then he becomes a variant because he like didn't die in a stunt or something that he should have. That'd be a great little touch with his love of jet skis in season 1. I was super surprised we got Lady Sif in the time loop, but I guess that makes sense because now they're in production for 4. Love and Thunder.
No, they just wrapped. They wrapped.
Yeah, so like, but when they were shooting that episode, for her,
when they were
would have
shooting
been,
the episode, yes,
they would have
yeah,
been in production. So it makes sense she just popped over in the costume and did that a little bit, which was hilarious and a direct riff off of a comic book storyline too, where he cuts off her hair when it's blonde, and then the dwarves grow it back, and then it's then they find out Loki stiffed him on paying him, so they turn it black, right? Because like in the comics, she was blonde and then becomes black haired. It's again super deep fucking stupid comic shit, and I love that Marvel is just knee deep in it, and I love it. It's great. Can't get enough of it. I know it's not like the deepest content in the world. It's not like life changing. Who gives a
No.
shit? It's fun. That's what entertainment should be. At least for
When it's
most of the time.
and it's properly executed. That's the thing you're forgetting to say
Yeah.
here. Like it's silliness, but also really good. They take the good stories from Marvel, the funny stories from Marvel, the hokey stories, and they execute it all very well. That's the main thing.
Yeah. And you can't help but love it.
Yeah.
So any other thoughts on the season as a whole? Anything that stands out to you? Like, what was your preferred episode of it all?
I think the planet that was dying. I forget the name of it.
Yeah,
Litimus.
the basically the planet that was hitting its moon.
Yeah. I thought that was probably the best acting outside of episode one I saw from Hiddleston. The Sophia, I forget her last name. I'm sorry, guys. Sophia, I forget. That played Lady Loki slash Sylvie. The chemistry they have in that episode is just unbelievable. Just great stuff there. But for me, I will say one was probably my favorite episode because watching him change his like just his eyes changing like the dynamic of his personality in that episode, watching his death, his life and his death, to me that showed how great of an actor Tom Hiddleston is. Just unbelievable actor. And why, of all the Marvel characters, hero and villain, I will say, like, fan favorite, I think Loki, we have to agree, Loki is probably the biggest one where everyone loves Loki, right?
Yeah.
Because you think about that Comic-Con appearance where he shows up and does a speech, and like the audience goes fucking bananas for him, right? And Hiddleston's trying to hold in the smile, but he can't do it. He has to smile. Um it's just, yeah, I really, this show was everything I expected it to be. I knew there was going to be some holes at the end of it. I knew there was going to be some questions that weren't answered, and even some new questions, and we have that. But at least we got an end to this season to where it's like, hey, if we had to stop here and then carry on the story in Doctor Strange or in other movies with Loki and the TVA, it works. It works. It
Hmm.
doesn't need its own show, but we're going to get another season, so we're going to get a little bit more backstory. The biggest thing outlier for me though is the Renslayer angle, of course. That just felt like that was the only thing that really we felt like there was going to be a big payoff, and we didn't get that.
Yep. I agree. Other things for me, the fifth episode, Richard Grant as old Loki was
I can't. Yeah, I know. I
standout
know.
great.
Hold on, not old Loki. He's classic Loki. Is
Yeah,
his
when
build?
he's
He's
old,
built
like
as classic Loki.
classic Loki, and he's like doing all that crazy, awesome magic shit at the end.
Yeah.
Like, and a special shout out to the score. Like when you were talking about Loki seeing his death, like that, like high strings, like slow melody that, like, it's just like sad music basically. That was
Yeah.
so perfectly done with those like scenes, like more emotionally charged scenes, that it really helped it stand out and really brought it all together. So I got to give a shout out to the score there too, because it really helped sell that fact that, yep, Loki's like that 2012 Avengers Loki, his ascent into basically Ragnarok Loki and
Yep.
then Infinity War is like extremely accelerated.
Yeah.
But it is the same path. It just happens much quicker for him, of course, because he saw it all. Like, and it hit him. You feel that it hit him and it changed him.
Yep.
I know some people didn't buy that, like, oh, it was just too quick. And I'm like, well, if I saw myself, who's like the same version of me, like everything's the same up to X point, which for me was very recently, that person went on and just like died, that would change a lot about who I am. You
But
know?
he saw his shift, like from
Yeah,
being this god of mischief to somebody that can
yeah. He
do
saw the
something good
person
that he could become.
that he could be and wanted to be, and
Yeah.
like the person that his brother was like, yeah, you're my brother. You're Loki, and like that hit him, and so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll. Oh, I don't know if this Loki's gonna live through the show. Like I said in my prediction, I think in the end of it all, he's probably not going to and have to be reborn as like Kid Loki or whatever,
Sure, that's
setting
fair.
up Young Avengers. Or maybe we get that same kid from episode 5, right? The one that accidentally killed Thor, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then immediately was like, oh no, I've done something terrible. And like, tries to become a good person after
Yeah.
that. Or maybe it's that kid who helps like lead the Young Avengers or whatever. That'd be awesome.
Well, we know he's in the void just hanging out right now.
Exactly.
So
Like
yeah.
he's still around.
Yep.
Like it's possible. And plus maybe we get more alligator Loki.
Oh yeah,
That
that'd be
was
great.
awesome.
God, alligator Loki.
So dumb.
Great.
Literally so stupid. We got
Yep.
Mobius sitting there going, "Are you sure you're just not an alligator with a crown, right? Like, so great. Just so stupid, but great. And I feel like you could say that for a lot of what's going on with Marvel, but can't help but love it.
Yep.
All right, so we're at roughly 35-ish minutes.
Sure.
Anything you want to add before we wrap up for this one? Because we wanted to keep this one shorter for everyone
Yes.
listening. Just keep it specifically beyond a couple of tangents about Loki and our thoughts so far and how we really felt about it, which for both of us has been very enjoyable.
Yep.
It was a great excuse to get up early on a Wednesday.
Yes.
And watch it in 4K before I went to work.
Very interesting what's going to happen with season 2. Like especially once we know where it's going to hit, like when
on the timeline will they get to production? When will it come out? That'll tell us a lot about where they're going.
Yeah, I don't see them rubber banding back. It's got to be forward, which means there's technically a time jump inside the TVA, whenever we see them again.
Yeah.
They may have their shit together, though he'll probably tell their story, but whatever. If we see them again, obviously in Doctor Strange 2, we're going to get a backstory of what's happening with the TVA and Loki. But then season 2 comes out, and then we get to see fully what's taking place with the TVA. So obviously the TVA is going to still become they're still a power player within the MCU in the background. We know that for a fact. But then we're also getting Uatu in the background with what ifs. So it's going to be really interesting where we go with the MCU. Very interesting.
Yeah. Well, we've already had the Watchers because we had Stan Lee talking to them. Right?
Yeah.
Guardians
but we get a full explanation of Uatu.
Yeah, what they are, and all that, which is great. Making in retrospect him being essentially a Watcher was top notch.
Yeah, that was a great way to put Stan Lee in there. Yes, great way. I agree.
All right, so I think we're gonna wrap it up here.
Let's wrap it up.
So thanks everyone for watching here this episode 20. Of course, be sure to subscribe here on whatever audio feed you're listening to and or the YouTube channel. Our Twitter handles are on screen if you're on the latter. We'll have all the links there. You can follow us at Mr. Warburg and at It's Mr. Fusion. Be sure to also tune in next week. We have a very special guest. We have Crafteria coming in to talk about the Mass Effect Legendary Edition and ranking all of the Mass Effect trilogy companion characters. No Andromeda people, just the OG trilogy people. And having already recorded that, because we're doing it out of order, that was an absolute blast.
Yes, it was.
One of my favorite podcasts I've literally ever done. She's an old friend of both of ours, and it was awesome to be able to get back in touch with her because we haven't, I think, spoken in person since I brought my mixer and my microphones to the floor of RTX Austin on the convention center. Second floor, there's this little alcove where you could get up on a bunch of seats, and we just sat and shot the shit for like 2 hours with my mixer, 4 microphones, and a whole bunch of us from the Oxford Comic Cafe. So getting to talk to Crafteria again and do a podcast with her again was fantastic.
Yes.
You're going to want to tune in for that. So yeah, if anybody watching live, thanks for hanging out, guys. It's been a good 2 hours, 15 minutes-ish of a stream on a Saturday morning. I'll be back tonight probably to play some Mass Effect 2 Insanity Run. I'm very excited.
Nice.
And of course, for anyone who's listening after the fact, thanks for hanging. Be sure to, again, like, subscribe, leave a review, help the algorithm out. That'd be great. And we'll see you next week, because I'm going to try to keep 20 and 21 about a week apart. So, see you in a week. Bye.